The Sisters of Dorley by Alyson Greaves. Read by Robin Nolan. Chapter 16. What She's Looking For. 2019, November 9th, Saturday. Everyone will know soon. All the women of Dorley, from Beatrice on down, will know about him. Already he can feel their eyes on him, stripping him, flaying him, judging his womanhood, finding it wanting, finding it absent. And what if they're right? What if now that he's been exposed, he's discovered as a fraud? How can you, Stefan, know what it is like to feel like a woman when you spent your whole life hiding from it? What if it was just a stupid fantasy all along? Stupid boy. Stupid, lucky boy. Doubts are meaningless here. His gender was decided for him long before his clumsy confession. No amount of denial or fear can break down the ironclad procedures of Dorley Hall. He'll be transitioned whether he likes it or not, whether he participates or not. Isn't that why he's here? He's too weak, too broken, too ashamed to do it himself, and they all know that now. He twists in the bed, ties the covers in knots. So stupid to let himself be discovered. Sure, keeping up the facade had been painful, and his assumed maleness, not to mention his invented and redacted but still vividly implied recent history of abuse, had been an obstacle to his friendship towards Pippa, but there had been a comfort in it all the same, one he only recognizes now. When it's gone, when they thought of him as a man, they expected nothing of him. Horrible to realize that misery has a comfort all of its own, a predictability. He doesn't know how to be a woman, doesn't know how to act, who to be, and they'll see this and they'll know that all of the broken boys taken in this year, this one is by far the most pathetic. This one dreams. Stupid girl, stupid spiraling girl, why would any of them think that? He told Pippa, confessed everything to her, and she didn't judge him, didn't pity him, she was delighted. But she had reason to be, didn't she? Sponsoring him has been hard for her. She's a true believer, same as the others, and considers herself without a doubt to have benefited from her sponsor's intervention. But surviving the program is one thing, putting someone else through it is quite another. His coming out untangled the knots in her conscience, so she isn't necessarily a good barometer. So what about Christine then? Her reaction, now she thinks back to it, was a lot like Pippa's. She believed him quickly and easily, then moved on to practical matters. Almost as if people can see it in you, you idiot. Just like Pippa, she didn't judge him. She just accepted him. Tore up her life just to help him. Abby too. She's known about him almost as long as Christine, and she's never acted towards him with anything but compassion. Pippa's kindness, Christine's, Abby's, all genuine if he thinks about it. If he stops assigning malicious intent to people who have displayed no evidence of it, towards him anyways, then he has no reason to believe that any of the women of Dorley will think of him unkindly for this. Nor believe any one of them will have expectations of this instant, perfectly formed womanhood. They were once boys, just like he tried to be. Worst, abused and abusive boys, all of them. He frowns at his ungenerous description and discards it. It's a relic. His own self-hatred pushed outwards, imprinted on women who have only ever acted in what they believed was his best interests. Better instead to embrace the truth. They're women, without caveats or qualifiers or the stains of their former identities. Christine claims and clings to her gender as fiercely and with as much conviction as any woman that Stefan's ever known, despite her insistence that she's not trans, which carries with it a hint of an inferiority complex that Stefan's wanted to interrogate for weeks now, like he has room to talk, and berated him for being gauche enough to draw attention to her once maleness. Pippa would likely react similarly, although Stefan's gut recoils at the thought of accusing her as harshly as once she did Christine, back in that cell. Not trans. What are they then? Do they even have a word for it? Coercively reassigned female? Perhaps just call them women, Steph, and leave it at that. He stretches some of the tension out of his limbs, rolls his neck, cracks his fingers, concentrates on the physical sensation, imagines nerve endings firing, blood vessels flowing, lungs inflated, positions himself firmly in his body, the exact inverse to his older mechanisms for dealing with dysphoria. Back before he was capable of properly naming it, adapted for his new circumstances, because it's really not all that bad being back in this body, now that he knows it's changing under him. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid, like let self-loathing convince him that a building full of women that all looked very much like him will now judge him for wanting to follow in their footsteps. So, what now? At least he can talk to the sponsors without them treating him like he's a monster, as much as things have been moving that way for a while. Helping Aaron after Declan knocked him down in the shower seemed to change something in Maria's attitude, at least. If the exasperated glances she's been sharing with him recently are anything to go by, knowing that it's over for good is a profound relief. They now know that he's exactly like them. Mostly like them, in broad terms. A chime from his PC startles him out of his thoughts, and when he's untangled himself from the wreckage of his bed sheets and sat up, he can see a prompt on the screen requesting that he create a pin. That's new. He pushes off the bed, grateful for the distraction. He's spent a solid hour deep in thought, most of it unproductive and highly self-critical, and has come up with nothing more useful than stop overthinking things, laudable in concept, unworkable in practice, and he taps in a pin. He picks up the number from his old debit card, presumably cut in half by Pippa, because it's the only 4-digit code he can reliably remember. The PC makes another noise and quickly reboots, and when the desktop appears, after prompting him for his PIN again, there are twice as many icons. There's also a text file placed centrally on the screen, labeled, "Read me, Christine." "Hi, Steph. Congratulations on putting the cat among the pigeons, depositing the fox in the hen house, shouting fire in the crowded theatre, etc. Things are weird here again. Abby's thrilled. So's Maria, I think. She's got this smirk on her face that I'm pretty sure you put there, and it makes sense. She's been basically running this place for years, and you're the first genuinely new thing to happen ever since we stopped tweaking the intake guidelines. If you hadn't come along sooner or later, I think she would have invented you just to relieve the monotony. So, as of the moment you entered that PIN, you gained access to a hell of a lot of privileges. You're actually on a custom profile that I've set up because Maria is being cautious and wants granular control over all of your shit. To break it down, your door access is unchanged, so for now you can't let yourself out of the basement or into the boys' rooms. Anything with a red light is still locked for you. We don't want you accidentally using the wrong biometric reader because you're sleepy and letting yourself into, Martin's room by mistake. But you will be able to leave the basement on request. It'll require a bit of organization. We don't want to see the boys seeing you strolling up the stairs, so you can't do it on a whim. But it's something we can make happen, and I should probably warn you, now that you're officially in on the joke, they might ask you to attend the Christmas party. Apologies in advance for that. I suggest you start thinking up an excuse now. The only thing you won't be able to do is leave the hall without an escort. You're on second year rules, basically. As for networking, your PC has an unrestricted mode, which you're in now, reading this, and a restricted mode. Hit the shortcut on the desktop to switch between the two, or slap Control or Delete if you're in a hurry. In unrestricted mode, you can access our network and use our streaming accounts, and you can go online, but no social media, no email, no nothing. Consider the internet a read-only resource for now, and we monitor that shit, so be sensible about it. If you want to get a head start on things like voice training, not shifting your pitch, obviously, unless you want to spend the next several months whispering to the boys and pretending you got a really sore throat, but expanding your range, practicing your breathing, finding your head voice, all will be helpful to you when the time comes, believe me. There are training documents and videos on our network, all open to you in unrestricted mode. Have a poke around, there's all sorts of useful shit on there. Your phone is unchanged for now. Like the door locks, it's a precaution, not a lack of trust. Too easy for you to slip up and accidentally show someone something he's not supposed to see. Maria says we can revisit all this stuff once you're more accustomed to being a free-ish woman. Pippa's okay. She's mad at me because I spent a month lying to and manipulating her, and that's fair enough, suppose. But I kind of want to ask you a favor. Be her friend? She's lonely, and I fucked it all up. Anyway, that's everything. Reach me on consensus if you want, but otherwise congrats, you don't need me anymore. Take care, Steph. Christine. He reads the last paragraph through a couple times. Congrats, you don't need me anymore? That's unusually self-deprecating, even more than he's come to expect from her. Does Christine think he's angry with her? He's he's perplexed by her. And sure, and feels ugly and masculine in her presence, but he sees a lot of beautiful, confusing women these days, and he's got a lot more on top of the discomfort he feels around them than he used to be. Before he can hop on consensus and call her an idiot, someone knocks on his door. He grumbles under his breath. He's getting a little sick of people dropping by today and considers pretending to be asleep, but then the knocking starts up again and doesn't stop. Fine. He takes a second and makes sure the computer's back in restricted mode, and he quickly looks around his room to make sure nothing's amiss, then opens the door to a nervous Aaron, still knocking, now waving his hand uselessly against the air. Hi, Stefan says, stepping aside to let him in. Hi, Steph, Aaron says, hovering at the perimeter, reluctant to step inside. He starts twisting his hands around each other and he looks smaller than usual. What's up? Hey, so, look. Aaron looks left and right as if checking for witnesses, and then continues in a whisper. Are you okay? Feeling good? Or good for the basement anyway? Nothing ticking over in that head of yours, waiting to explode? Are you gonna seem completely fine and then snap like a fucking twig and scare the shit out of me again? What are you talking about? Stefan says, frowning and sorting through the apparently endless events of the day. Declan, Aaron says, finally coming inside, ducking an arm under Stefan's, holding the door open and perching on the edge of his bed. I'm talking about Declan. He looks at his hands suddenly, and for the first time noticing his habit of just gesticulating along with his speech, and then sits on them, holding them still. And about what happened after. It's been hours, Steph. And we only just got out of lockdown. I spent the whole time thinking they were lining to kick the crap out of you. You didn't hear me banging on the door, yelling your name? No, sorry. Not your fault, I guess. The soundproofing has to be pretty good here, but you're okay. I'm okay. Because, man, they dragged you away. Back to the cells. Like you'd done something wrong by smacking the world's dumbest fucking rapist in the teeth. And all I got from you afterwards was a thumbs up and then a thumbs up through the fucking common room door. And for all I knew, they could have made you do that. I know there's another exit near the bedrooms, and I don't know what happens when you wash out, and I thought I was going to be alone down here again, and I'm okay. Aaron, no beatings? No. And you're not going to freak out and try and hurt yourself again? No. Promise? Promise. Jesus's big, fat, floppy dick, Aaron mutters and then flops back down to the bed. Steph, mate, I thought I was going to have to talk you down from, I don't know, something drastic and awful, or I thought I'd never see you again. What happened? I got the talking to of my life, Stefan says, slightly taken aback by the intensity of Aaron's reaction. Possibly the boy just doesn't want to be left with only Will and Adam to talk to, an understandably horrifying concept. Stefan sits down at the head of the bed and rearranges the pillows for comfort, throwing one to Aaron and using the time it takes to situate himself to cover for the thinking he needs to do. Perhaps he'll have to wing this conversation, feel out what elements of the truth he can use to spin his latest lie, and he suppresses a moment's irritation that Beatrice didn't leave him with any instructions beyond, don't tell them anything. Perhaps improvising a cover story is his first official task as a collaborator. But that's all it was. I had to promise I wouldn't hit anyone else. He shrugs. It was more about Declan than me. He was on his last chance and he blew it. He's washing out. For good, Aaron says, breathing out heavily. You know this for sure? Yeah. Who told you? Pippa and Maria, a little bit as well. Stefan adds, borrowing a bit of her authority. Certain that if Aaron asks her to confirm any of it, she'll lie as smoothly and professionally she does. And when she tells Aaron he'll leave Dorley Hall a changed man. Fuck, because that's still happening, isn't it? To Aaron, to all of them. Aaron's sitting up against the wall himself now, head resting on the pillow Stefan gave him, ankles tucked under, frowns at Stefan as if he senses his disquiet. As well he should. It's different now, which doesn't entirely make sense. Stefan's been lying to Aaron since they first met, but now that Stefan is officially on the side of the sponsors, he's been upgraded from prisoner to prison guard. It's different. How could it not be? Welcome to the team, he remembers with a shudder. Aaron blinks at him, almost comically innocent, and Stefan wonders how the punishment can possibly be proportional to the crime. It seems catastrophically unjust. Except it's not supposed to be punishment, is it? No, it's rehabilitation or whatever. Beatrice's twisted idea of it, one that she's recruited generations of women into helping out with. Simultaneously beneficiaries, employees, and justification for her ideology. Convenient, and in Stefan's mind, it's transformed over the weeks from barely believable to straightforwardly horrifying. He can't stop looking at Aaron. They're going to change him. They've already started. So, Aaron says, uncomfortable under his gaze, did Pippa or Maria happen to tell you what washing out actually involves? Stefan swallows some of the tension out of his throat. No, he says, and he's relieved it's coming out almost normal. I ask, but no, because I have a theory. Oh? I think they harness for sport, dude. Aaron. The boy snorts. That wasn't serious. Okay, maybe it was a little serious because we're never leaving here. You know that, right? He drums his fingers on his thighs, allocates his attention to the task. I've been thinking about this. They're never going to let us go. They can't, or we'll go to the police. I don't care how many books on feminism Maria makes me read. None of them have a bit that's maybe any less likely to call 999 the second I get out of here and start ugly crying about it, kidnapping rings until the operator sends someone with a box of tissues and a SWAT team. And that means washing out, or whatever bullshit excuse they use to eventually get rid of us, which means being shipped off somewhere else, somewhere worse, or they're doing a Dexter and dropping us into the sea in bin bags. I'm not sure. I don't want to die, Steph, Aaron says, and Stefan notices for the first time that his eyes, normally always a little puffy from poor sleep, are red. He's been crying. I don't want to die. And I don't want to sit around in this fucking dungeon watching people get carted off one by one. I'm ready to tear this place up, run at someone and get tased over and over again because what's the point in being a good boy? Staying out of trouble, keeping my pecker in my pocket, reading all of Maria's books and eating every spoonful of shit they shuffle me if my grand reward is I'm the last one to leave? Do I get to sit in the common room and watch while they drag you away? Because I had a preview of that today, Stefan, and I didn't like it one fucking bit. Hey, Stefan says, leaning forward, not touching him but closing the gap between them. Sincerity by proximity. You show him he's not scared. I've been talking to them. No one's dragging me away. Or you. Declan's a fucking monster. You're not, and neither am I. Not even for... No. Then how do we leave? Aaron shouts. Because I can't come up with a way that doesn't involve body bags and meat cleavers. He stopped drumming on his thighs and instead wrapped his arms around his waist, shrinking himself. Stefan's had enough experience to spot someone trying to hold down rampant panic, and he's torn between concern for Aaron and anger at Maria and Beatrice and all the others for allowing this to happen. But that's the point, right? That's the benefit of someone washing out. The threats are suddenly real. The boys start fearing for their lives, not just their freedom. They can't pretend it's just a psychological experiment anymore, or work jail, or anything else. Will called washing out the boogeyman. Not anymore. Stefan finds himself wondering at the convenience of the timing, just when it's starting to sink in that they're all going to be down here for a long, long time. It can't be true that Dorley takes in one extra boy per year with the express intention of washing them out. Can it? Beatrice says she doesn't like to waste people, and if she's to be believed, and Stefan has to trust her credibility, else the promises she made about his own future look suspect and this place becomes even more of a war horror show, then such an action will be abhorrent to her. He can believe she'll seize on any useful side effect, though. A shame one of the boys had to go, but what a splendid motivator for those who remain. Everything's a lever. He wonders, suddenly, if they ever lose boys from the fear they stoke in them. If that counts towards a failure or another kind of success, another bad man off the streets forever. Would Aaron, convinced that the same fate awaits all of them, do something drastic? Can I tell you a secret? Stefan says quickly, stomach lurching, needing to say or do something to make it better, and just rapidly deciding exactly what that is. Aaron looks down at his knees again. Nods. And you'll keep it to yourself, just for now, he says. Aaron nods again. Because I was explicitly instructed not to tell anyone about this, and it could hurt me badly if it gets out that I did. Aaron nods again. I won't hurt you, Steph, he whispers. You remember after the thing with the nurse? when I asked to speak to someone in charge about the way we were treated, and I met a woman called Abby. Yeah, she said she was down here once. Down here like we are, kept here, just like us, until she reformed. She said it was years ago. And that there have been a lot of people down here between her and us. Enough people that, if all of them really had disappeared forever, it'd be a national scandal. Granted, all of them actually have disappeared, with Stefan and his supposed backpacking holiday as the sole exception. They've got to be bribing someone, surely. Lots of someone's. She survived. She got out. Her and dozens of others over the years. They stay down here, they reform, they move on. Aaron's breathing slows down a little. You didn't happen to meet any more of these others, did you? No, but she didn't seem like she was lying, and I think she was telling me more than she was supposed to, you know? Aaron nods. So what, do they have girl intakes and boy intakes? Or are they normally mixed, and we were just really unlucky and got a no-girl one? Or is there a whole other basement? I don't know. She didn't say. I think she was more interested in reassuring me. Maybe she knows everyone gets scared about this at some point. So, if she got out, why is she still around? She said it's cheaper than renting, and she has friends here. Don't suppose she said what she did to end up down here, Aaron says. Stefan pretends to remember, sorting through ways to repackage the things that Abby's told him about her life before graduation. She said she had behavioral problems. Bad ones. But she hurt someone, and that she fought against this place to begin with, but she eventually came to realize that being made to change was the only way she was ever going to change. Is that really it? Aaron says. We change, we leave. It's a pretty big change they want, I think. Like you said, they don't want us running off and dumping them in the second we get out. We need to believe we're better off than we were before. Better people. This is sounding like a cult, Stefan. Are we going to end up worshipping a moon goddess or something? Is there going to be a spaceship you can only get on board via mass suicide? I'm sure she would have mentioned if there was a mass suicide spaceship. We just change, Aaron says. Yes, become better men. Yes, Stefan says, looking away. Aaron unwinds a little, stretches his legs out in front of him, lays his hands in his lap. Maybe you had the right idea. Going on at me about my shit. Maybe I shouldn't have given you grief about it. I don't think it's so granular. I think there's a whole process and we're only just getting started. Although, I suppose deciding never to do it again couldn't hurt. Way ahead of you. Good. Fuck, Aaron says, after a moment spent playing with his lower lip with his teeth. Down here a while then. Probably, yeah. This Abby, is she hot? She's beautiful, Stefan says. Like, model pretty. Nice. You think maybe guys don't call the police because they get to live in a big house full of hot women after? The grin that Aaron turns on is half smug, half cheeky, the way he usually is. And Stefan is so relieved by the apparent return of the boy's equilibrium that he laughs out loud, lets the pressure out of his chest with an undignified snort that turns to a hysteria that takes him a few good seconds to recover from. When he does, Aaron's crossed his hands behind his head, looking up at him, still smiling, and it takes everything Stefan has not to hug him. What's so funny? Aaron says, play-acting offended. Stefan says, I have no idea. At least you got a laugh out of it. It's a nice change of pace. I spent the evening feeling like the mousetrap is about to snap shut around my neck. Just this impending and inescapable sense of doom. You're not doomed. Well, let's hope, Aaron says, half joking. You're not doomed, Stefan insists, losing his levity as fast as it came. He knows exactly what it'll take for Aaron to get out of here. Aw, you do care. I do, actually, Stefan says, looking at Aaron in profile and wondering, as the guilt ties itself around his spine, how Aaron will look as a girl, whether he'll survive long enough for them both to find out, and what exactly would happen if Stefan just told the truth right now, if he admitted everything. Would Aaron tell the others? Try to escape? Would he hurt himself? You mind if I just hang out for a bit? Aaron says. Don't want to go back to my room right now. Yeah, Stefan says, the confession freezing on his lips and his fingernails biting his palms as he realizes the truth has to be kept from Aaron, lest he tries something drastic enough, one way or another, to end his own life or wash out. So Stefan will keep this secret, lie to him, spin stories, cooperate with Maria, be complicit, and comfort him when one day, soon enough, Aaron wakes up mutilated. Sure. 2019, November 10th. Sunday. I feel weird about this. It's fine, Aaron, really. No, it's not fine at all. They got really strange about us showering unsupervised, remember? They made us always go together at the same time every morning. It was a whole thing. I know you remember this, Steph. Have you gone wrong? Please stop tapping on my head. I'm trying to find the bit of you that's gone crazy. It's fine, Aaron, really. Those rules were because of Declan, right? Well, he's gone now. Gone. Don't remind me. I think I should, because you seem to have forgotten. We're safe. Whatever happens to him isn't ever going to happen to us. Yeah? Yeah. So? Yeah. Fine. We're safe. There's always Maria, though, showering at the appropriate time. That's her rule, and she likes rules. Loves them. Probably sleeps with a big book of them. Probably stroked its sexy hardback spine. And remember the microphones, Aaron. Good point. Still, Maria, though. I'll protect you from Maria. My hero. Get off me. My knight in shining armor. I'm your neighbor in a bloody dressing gown, so get off me. My knight in a greenish-black robe. I said get off... Ow! What? What did I do? Nothing. That wasn't nothing, Stefan. Just, my chest is a little sore. You too? They talked for a bit. Watched a movie together. Stefan keeping a careful eye on Aaron until the anxiety genuinely seemed to leave him. He threw in a lot of reassurances about how nice and normal Abby seemed. How there were probably others at Saints who have been through the same thing, and the reason they never heard anything about it before they ended up here is because the people who leave are grateful, not dead. Partway through the movie, Aaron switched position, moved closer to him, and while I was a little uncomfortable in the way that personal contact with Aaron can be, Stefan's long since rejected the idea that Aaron might be flirting, having decided instead that he's just drawn to the novel sensation of being close to someone who is nice to him. Mostly, it made Stefan aware of how much the day's effort and anxiety caused him to sweat. So, somewhere after 2 a.m, he persuaded Aaron to come along for a little illicit late-night shower. So, because sitting in your own stink is bad enough in an ordinary bedroom and downright appalling in the poorly ventilated basement rooms. Yeah, Stefan says, turning his back on Aaron and hanging up his dressing gown on one of the pegs in the shower annex. I've been sore for a couple of days, probably just a side effect of the goserelin. Makes a show of massaging his chest. Is it his imagination, or is there a little development there? The flesh seems more firm, even if there's nothing visible yet. Ha! Aaron says, triumphant, disobeying and following Stefan's example, turning away. It's been a while since Stefan was last intentionally subjected to the sight of Aaron's penis. The thought of it is almost nostalgic. I knew it. You said it can't make you grow breasts. It can't. Stefan ducks under the water and wets his hair, then ducks back out to add, but maybe it can make your nipples hurt. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. No, Steph, Aaron says, picking up the tap next to Stefan and starting the water. You are not. Jesus, this feels good. Stefan ducks his head under. It really does. No, you don't understand. This is really good. Aaron turns to him and holds out his arms as if to demonstrate, and then sheepishly turns away again, cheeks red, when Stefan's eyes unavoidably flicker down for a moment. I've never had a shower like this. It's like the water is kissing my skin. Stefan laughs. Maybe you're just in a good mood. Yeah, Aaron says, rubbing in the shampoo and half turning his head to grin at Stefan without danger of further exposure. That must be it. I've got the basement euphoria. Common medical condition that comes from being entombed in concrete for weeks. You'd know about that being a doctor and all. Or, he adds, rinsing it out, is it just from knowing I'm not going to die down here? Kind of a relief, really. You okay to do my conditioner? Sure, Stefan says, shrugging. Earlier, while they were watching the movie, Aaron confided that he really does have difficulty raising his left arm over his head for more than a few seconds. He can stretch okay and wave and all that, but he can't apply pressure and he can't lift things. He hasn't said why. Stefan assumes it's an injury from boarding school from when the other boys used to delight in hurting him. Whatever the reason, Stefan's happy enough to keep helping him with rubbing in his conditioner. Come here and stay still. I'm going to ask Maria if we can start taking our phones into the common room, Aaron says, squirming as Stefan massages the conditioner through his hair. It's getting longer, and it's starting to look more like Stefan's unkept thatch, and the shorter hairs on the back and sides are getting shaggy. Aaron normally keeps it slicked back, but when it's wet, it falls in his eyes. When he shakes his head to clear them, it's almost cute. Okay, why? For the cameras, Steph. Just imagine what if I'd been able to get you on video smacking Declan around. You should have seen yourself. Fucking glorious. Just whap, and he's on the floor like a fucking, I don't know, black and white cartoon banana peel assisted ass plant. And you're standing all over him like, come on then. You deserve to see that. Spank bank material for life. Stefan slaps him lightly on the side of the head as a reprimand to let him to know he's done with the conditioner. I wouldn't mind forgetting it actually. My thumb still hurts. You hit him with your thumb inside your fist? Why does everyone keep on at me about that? It's not like I've been in a lot of fights. Hey, Aaron says, holding up a pair of soapy hands, balled up with the thumbs inside. No judging, I would have done the same thing. Thought you got into fights at your awful school. Sure, I got in fights, I just didn't get the opportunity to fight back. Jesus, Stefan says, turning around to wash himself in the place they doesn't like to think about. I'm sorry, Aaron. Yeah, well, joke's on them. Aaron starts rinsing the conditioner. Now they're all looking taint to climb the political and corporate ladders, and I'm having an illicit shower in a kidnapper basement with my best bud. They'd be so jealous. And I bet their nipples don't tingle at night either. They really are missing out. That was weirdly fun, Stefan says, hanging up his wet towel and putting on a t-shirt. Aaron hadn't wanted to return to his room, not even to pick up spare clothes, but he did agree to get changed with his back turned and is ready stretched out on the other end of the bed. Clad in Stefan's too big for him jogging bottoms and hoodie, scrolling through Stefan's phone, looking through another movie. Yeah, it actually was, Aaron admits. It was like sneaking out from a school trip. Clandestine in like a really basic kind of way, you know? Aw, Aaron says, you're always so wholesome. I can picture it now. He raises a hand to the ceiling, continues in a narrator's voice. A trip to Chessington, a cruel and heartless geography teacher who makes the boys and girls separate buses, and, you know, a brave 13-year-old sneaking out of the boys' floor to find out where the girls are sleeping. How did you know my geography teacher was cruel and heartless? Aren't they all? And you're wrong about Chessington. Our school could have never afforded it. Wrong side of London. We did once go to that place where all the Wattle and Daub houses used to be. Isn't that just a big field? Yeah. Your school trip was a field. It was a different field to the ones around where I grew up, Stefan says. Novelty value. Anyway, I never sneaked out on any trip except to call a friend of mine back home. Never even sneaked out of school. I was very well behaved, he adds primly. What did you do to end up in here? Corporate espionage? Liar? Art forgery? I've seen your doodles, you can't draw. I colluded with the French to... Will you stop? I'm trying to find a movie that isn't quite sacro enough to make me vom, and you're being very distracting. Sorry. Aaron drops the phone on the bed, giving up, resting his head on crossed hands. You might have been sweetness at light at school, he says, but I wasn't. I mean, I guess you know about the recent stuff. He coughs delicately and looks uncomfortable. But I mean, before, when I was a teenager, when I got transferred into hell. Stefan doesn't ask what he means by that, because it seems clear. Hey, Aaron nods. Did your parents have, like, a life plan for you? A life plan? Yeah, like, what did they want you to be? Stefan shrugs. I don't know. I never asked. It's not the sort of thing I've ever wanted to know. Huh, Aaron says, contemplating Stefan's response as if it's by far the least relatable things he's ever said, which it might well be. After Dad's business got sold and we were suddenly rolling in it, then they developed big plans for me. Big plans. He waves a hand around. I was going to be in business. I was going to be in politics. Jesus, he adds with a derisive sniff. They wanted me to be fucking prime minister. Didn't matter what I wanted, obviously. Or they'd have moved me away from my friends and made me hyper fucking miserable. That was a bonus, actually. No distractions. So off I go to a brand new school, a fucking sardine tin of dickheads that twists open and rains down on me as soon as I get there. And oh yes, I have to live my entire life there too. Can't be prime minister if you don't network. Stupid, obviously. How come? None of the posh boys gave a fuck who I was. And Dad, well, he sold, didn't he? Wasn't in business anymore. He had more money than sense even when he didn't have any money. Now he was rolling in it and he didn't understand that family connections matter to those people. And he didn't have any, ergo I didn't have any. And I sounded wrong. And I even looked wrong. You know that look that aristos have, like someone not too far up in the family tree fucked a trout and had a lovely clutch of fish babies and the glassy eyes and the floppy jaw became dominant genetic traits? Yeah, you know the one. I didn't have that either. Nothing about me fit. That sounds awful, Aaron, extracting 2 bottles of water from the stash under the bed and wiggling one at Aaron, who takes it. Thanks, Aaron says, cracking it open and taking a drink. Yeah, it was pretty fucking awful. If the other boys weren't locking me in a coal shed, they were aiming a kick at me in the hall, or taking my stuff, or doing other shit. And I guess I could have told my dad, just said it wasn't working out. But as far as I was concerned, he stopped giving a shit as soon as he slammed the car door and drove away. Probably not true, looking back. I think he would have moved me on if I made enough of a fuss, like if I really made a problem for him. But when you're a stupid kid, you're a stupid kid. Right. So I start exploring, looking for places to be alone, and I found lots of little nooks and crannies, loads of secret spaces, all of which have been comprehensively mapped by generations of posh wankers. Like, son, this is the room where I first played Soggy Biscuit and made Dumpy Doggins eat it, that kind of thing, and Dumpy Doggins is in Parliament now. What's Soggy Biscuit? Don't ask. Anyway, my only choice is to get the hell out of hell, so that's what I do. Start sacking off classes and go wandering. Skip breakfast, skip dinner, sneak back into the dorm late at night, show up to just enough lessons not to get kicked out, and that turns out not to be very many because posh school, not exactly academically rigorous. Yeah, really? Yeah, I expected to be behind when I started there, but it turns out these boarding schools are just big kindergartens for the well-bred. They don't need to know things. They just need how to learn how to hide their sociopathy in a suit. Takes some years to teach too. That type of cruelty takes a lot of sanding down. Hey, why aren't there any of them in here? There might have been in other years. Probably not though. Harder to kidnap someone when they're related to the Queen. God. Stefan adds, giggling. Imagine waking up to another ordinary day in the basement and Prince William is there. Maria is standing in front of him like imperialism is just another facet of toxic masculinity. Anyway, Aaron says, and Stefan makes apologetic gestures for the tangent. I started exploring away from school, and there's a small town a mile or so down the road. I ended up going there a lot because there was nowhere else even close. Middle of nowhere, literally, and nothing to do in town. So I started hanging around this corner shop. I go there in my shitty little uniform, buy a Mars bar instead of actually having dinner. And after a while, they started noticing me. And I asked if I could use their kettle to make a pot noodle, and they started talking to me, asking how I am, making sure I get something a bit more substantial to eat. And, well, he blushes, looks away from Stefan at the ceiling, starts turning his hands over each other again. Elizabeth did. Elizabeth? Stefan asks into the sudden silence. Yeah, she was the eldest daughter of the family who ran the place. And she was kind to me and interested, like she'd actually cared. We'd talk and she'd listen and offer advice, and she was so fucking pretty. Steph, you don't understand. Like, I'd gone from being a child at a normal school where the girls were kids like me into this shit pit full of posh boys, none of whom I'd have wanted to touch, even if they didn't ritually kick the crap out of me all the time. And there she was, a woman. She was kind and confident and intelligent, all the things you'd want someone to be. Just hanging out with her was a life-changing experience. Did we do it? Aaron finishes, looking vaguely scandalized. No, Christ, no, she was in her 20s, much older than me. I just fancied her a bit. I mean, obviously I did. She was gorgeous, but also nice, smart, interesting woman who made a bit of time for me. Maybe the first and last person to be kind to me. Until, well, he coughs. But the family lost the shop and she had to move. Rent went up or some shit. And I meant to stay in touch, but the posh boy stamped on my phone and that was it, Eventually, when I got out of hell, I tried to look her up on Facebook and realized I never even knew her fucking surname. How long ago was this? Years ago. I had a lot of school to get through and had nowhere to escape to after she left. I'm sorry, Aaron. He says, rolling back over and making himself busy with the phone again. That's the good thing about this place. People can't leave me. Literally can't. Locked in. I wouldn't leave you anyway. Aaron stopped scrolling. Really? Remember? I said we're both friends and Will called us gay? Huh. Yeah. Cool. So, do you want to watch something called Desperately Seeking Susan? Since yesterday, Christine's been holding Paige's hand a lot. She needs the reassurance. She came close to wrecking their relationship, close to wrecking Paige herself. Christine's had to get over her innate disbelief that anyone, let alone Paige Adams, could like her that much, because clearly she does, and sooner or later, you have to let go of your own self-loathing before it hurts someone who matters. And now that they've reaffirmed their bond, she doesn't want ever to be left out of contact with her. Paige's slender fingers anchor her, keep her safe, and she'd worry she was being too clingy if Paige didn't need the connection just as much. Maria poked gentle fun at them when they came down for breakfast and didn't unlink to pour cereal. Given that they're both right-handed, this required some ingenuity. But because Paige takes her classes very seriously, she's already impressed one of her history with human rights professors enough that he's practically guaranteed her a spot on one of the summer placements, which makes Christine ache with both pride and preemptive loneliness at the thought of being without her for 3 months. They've been forced to detach from each other so Paige can concentrate on her work. She's still within sight, perched at one of the smaller tables around the edge of the dining room, laptop and binders scattered in front of her, frowning, typing, occasionally singing under her breath. Christine can't think of anything she'd rather look at and suppresses her irritation when 2 more of her sisters, sounding distressingly chirpy, enter the dining room and make a beeline for her table. Indira kisses the top of her head and sits on her left. Abby deposits 3 coffee cups on the table and falls into a seat on Christine's right. Christine doesn't want to look at the mugs because she knows Abby will have picked out the ones with the worst, most awful jokes, and sure enough, when she picks hers up to take a sip, it says on the side, "You have a special way of making people smile." With depressing inevitability, the word smile has been crossed out and replaced with girls, apparently at the printing stage. Cute, for certain very localized values of cute. "You're very sweet together," Abby says, nodding at Paige. "You and her. I do love to see it. She was miserable, last year after you broke things off." "I know," Christine says. "I don't want to talk about it, if that's okay. I've spent enough time recently cataloging my mistakes. The list is long." "She's testy," Indira stage whispers over Christine's head. "No sleep." Indira's response to discovering that Christine had been hiding a whole trans girl from everyone except Abby had been mercifully confined to Christine's bedroom and thus was moderated by Paige's presence, but it had still been rough, even if it ended in hugs. "Oh?" Abby said, raising her eyebrows, smirking, but Indira cuts her off, shaking her head. "Bad dreams," she explains and squeezes Christine's shoulder. It's true. Nightmares jerked her out of her bed several times overnight. If it hadn't been for Paige gently rubbing her neck, stroking her hair, kissing her, promising her that everything's okay, Christine wouldn't have gotten more than a single hour of sleep. It was one of the factors that moderated Indira's reaction. When she walked in, Christine was curled up in Paige's lap, clinging to her like she was the last woman on earth. "I'm worried about Steph," Christine says. "You shouldn't be," Indira says. "Maria's on her side, and Pippa was already on her side. She's safe. Physically, maybe, but haven't we officially recruited her? What's that going to do to her brain?" "We'll watch her, don't worry." "I'm surprised you didn't go see her in person," Abby says, "just for the reassurance." Christine smiles. "I thought about it, but I checked the feed and Aaron was with her all night. I wouldn't have been able to see her without prompting some awkward questions." "All night? They slept together? That's early." "No," Christine says, and pulls out her phone, bring up the appropriate footage. "See?" She scrubs through it, covering hours and seconds. "They watched a movie, washed up, watched another movie, and eventually fell asleep. That's Steph in the bed, and Aaron curled up in the pile of hoodies on the floor." Indira giggles. "Like a puppy." "Stop," Christine says, dropping her phone on the table. "That's not an image I ever want in my head." "It's right there," Abby says, ever helpful. "Look." Christine drinks her coffee, eyes to the ceiling. "You can't make me." Indira, aware more than anyone else of the shortness of Christine's temper when she's tired, engages Abby with more local gossip, and Christine shoots a grateful smile to her before letting herself zone out. She rests her chin on her free hand, sips her coffee, and returns to watching Paige, a pastime she'll never tire of. Paige is sweetly deliberate in everything she does, and as Christine watches, she swipes on her laptop's touchpad, peers at something written in her notes, and starts typing, all with the same careful, controlled gestures so typical of her. That little dent between her brows when she frowns, Christine wants desperately to kiss it. She's still singing to herself too. God, how did she almost let herself ruin this? How did she nearly miss it in the first place? All those times she thought Paige was being pushy, she was actually supporting her, fighting her, caring for her, the way she's always done, since before she was Paige. A woman she will never deserve. Better start trying harder, then. The sound of fresh coffee being poured wakes her up, and when Abby sits back down, she's putting the cafetiere aside for one of the second years to pick up later. She gently strokes the back of Christine's neck, where her hair becomes wispy and fine, and kisses her on the cheek. Sleepy little thing, Abby says. Who are you calling little? Christine mumbles. I'm taller than you. Think you should know. I just refilled Paige's mug and she didn't spot me coming, so I'm going to hear what she's been singing all this morning. Oh? It's You Belong With Me, but she's changing the lyrics. Pretty sure she made them about you. Christine looks back at Paige, and it doesn't take her long to start up again. Now that she has contact, she can guess the words. I wear short skirts, she wears t-shirts. I'm cheer captain, she's on the bleachers. Dreaming about the day when she wakes up and finds that what she's been looking for has been here the whole time. Chrissy, Abby says sternly, if you ever break her heart again, I will be so very cross. Same, Indira says. This is your second chance with her, and take it from me, second chances are precious. She's made herself very vulnerable, Abby says. Opening up to you again. Don't forget. Christine drinks her coffee, deliberately slurping it to be rude. It's possible to have too many older sisters, she says. Nope, Indira says. I haven't heard that, Abby says. Me neither. Sounds like a myth. The table is a much nicer place to rest her head on than her hand, and if she closes her eyes, she can probably pretend the two of her dearest friends and closest family aren't ganging up on her. Someone, Indira probably, judging by the angle, starts rubbing her back, and she wriggles into the movements, accepting the comforts. Wonders, the way she sometimes does, what her old self might be doing at this moment. Doubts he would have been surrounded by people who love him as much as Abby and Indira love her, if they are even capable of being, from time to time, mildly irritating. Her old self. She's starting to struggle to remember his name. Good. Over her head, the conversations move from Christine's love life and her litany of errors onto just where the hell Abby has been for the past few weeks. I've been around, she says. Not much. We missed you. I've been working and not sleeping in your room. Well, no. I have an actual budget for this article and it's taken me all over the place. Getting to know the Travelodge network much better than I ever wanted to. Huh. I'd assumed you've been staying with Melissa. Abby looks away. No, she's seeing someone, and she doesn't want to see me again, for now. Oh shit, Abs. It's fine, Christine, but still, can we change the subject? Indira jumps in again, discussing her new responsibilities and noting that Nell, Faye's sponsor, has been effectively suspended with pay, reduced to filling in on the basement rota. Dira is co-sponsoring Faye with Bella, Rebecca's sponsor, which doesn't seem to take up as much of anyone's time as Faye and Rebecca are inseparable and practically sponsor each other. As bad as these two, Abby says, twitching her finger back and forth to indicate Christine and Paige. Worse, Indira says, sometimes they have guests. Gosh. Your year wasn't like that, was it? Not really. Yours? Definitely not. They're very sweet, though. She nudges Christine. They talk about you a lot. In what context? Christine asks warily, remembering Faye's aborted attempt to kiss her. They were asking if you could come up to the second floor to see both of you again. Ah, good, that sounds innocent. Anytime, she says, but I'll see them soon, won't I? Aren't the second years cooking today? Yes, Abby says in her primary school teacher voice, and that means they'll be busy. Cooking is hard work, Christine. No, it's easy, Christine says. You take the leftovers, you put them in the microwave, you eat the leftovers. She sticks her tongue out and lends a light smack on the shoulder. In fact, Faye and Rebecca can do little more away than Christine as a line of sponsors escort them and a few of the other second years into the dining hall, and a couple of hours later, bearing a Sunday lunch and a vegetarian option with a few bottles of wine, which prompts Paige, sitting down next to Abby and frowning politely at her until she agrees to swap seats with Christine, to complain once again this batch of second years are getting way more opportunities to exercise their alcohol privileges than she and Christine ever did. Confirmation bias, Indira says, leaning around Abby and gesticulating with a nut cutlet on her fork. You remember every time we pulled you kicking and screaming out of the liquor cabinet, and you extrapolate from there. One time, Paige says, presenting the appropriate number of fingers. Just one time, I wanted a whiskey. And it wasn't kicking and screaming, Christine says, loyal to the end, but resisting the urge to kiss her, lest she cover her in gravy. Aunt Bee pokes her head around the door from the kitchen, just as Christine's finishing her chicken and exchanges a few meaningful nods with Maria before retreating. Something about her demeanour and dress, stiff movements, sunglasses, very long coat, so just a hangover, and she whispers as much to Paige. Or a booty call, Paige whispers back. She giggles, as even more quietly. A booty call. Cover your mouth when saying things like that, Christine hisses, grinning. After dessert, a strange sort of pudding thing soaked in alcohol, which Christine decided was intended to knock them all out, Maria taps a spoon on the side of her glass for silence, and a roomful of sleepy women give her what passes for their full attention. Where's Pippa? Paige asks Christine quietly, as Maria gives the room a rundown on Steph's arrival at Dorley. No idea. Maybe she didn't want the attention. Christine smiles at the surprised faces that turn her way when Maria summarizes exactly how Steph remained hidden for so long. I know the feeling, she adds through gritted teeth. Paige hooks her fingers with her under the table. Mercifully, Maria moves on, efficiently covering the last month, editing out most of Steph's difficulties, the nurse included, and Christine relaxes her shoulders again. Excuse me, someone on the other side of the room says. It's Rebecca, raising a hand. Yes, Maria says. How will her treatment differ from ours? Rebecca asks. Christine could swear she and Faye are holding hands under the table like she is with Paige. Maria shrugs. It's what you'd expect, really. She's excused the re-socializing stuff unless she's with the other residents, and she'll know in advance when certain procedures are scheduled. Christine's about to whisper something sarcastic to Paige about how Maria is still euphemizing the orchiectomy to a room full of women who have all had one when she notices how quiet most of the second years have gotten. Rebecca, in particular, has lost little colour and Faye's whispering in her ear, rubbing her upper arm. So much fresher for them than it is for her, Christine remembers. Being reborn fucking hurts. Maria gives them some time. Indira suddenly snorts and covers her mouth with her hand. She makes conciliatory gestures towards Maria, who rolls her eyes and, looking out to the second years to see if they're ready to continue, starts covering the rules around their interaction with Steph. Don't seek her out unless you're a sponsor or she's visiting upstairs, which yes, she will be allowed to do. At the second year table, mild indignation replaces upset. It's not until Christine, Paige, Indira, and Abby are all decompressing in Indira's room on the third floor, arranging comfortable piles on the double-sized couch, that Indira explains what almost caused her to inhale her alcoholic sponge pudding. They should have all known that Steph was a white woman when she asked to see the manager. 2019, November 14, Thursday. Declan's departure, confirmed by Pippa to have finally occurred overnight. There was a delay of several days before he could be picked up, a term which seemed to deeply disturb her, hasn't reduced tension as much as Stefan hoped it might. Will's been talking about Declan as if he's dead, holding forth the whole common room, and Stefan's reassurances that none of the rest of them are likely to share his fate only seem to piss him off. Perhaps because Stefan only half believed them himself. He can't stop thinking about the false choice that Beatrice offered him, that night she found him out, and how it's the same choice facing the boys, even though they don't know it yet. Accept her methods, or wash out. In the face of it, what can Stefan do? Beatrice asked that he help the boys acclimate to the alterations, that he make himself complicit in every aspect of their changing bodies, and he's realized that even without her, he would have a moral obligation to do just that, else she might just wash them out. The whole disturbing thing, the thing that's been keeping him up at night since long before he accidentally came out to the whole building, is that there are dozens of girls up there in the hall. None of them have ever attempted to rush Beatrice, remove her means of control, whatever it is, by force, and take over. None of them feel strongly enough about what goes down on here, it seems. And it's obvious why they don't. They all survived it, and they all think themselves better people because of it. Why would they deprive anyone the opportunity to change and grow, as they did? True believers. Ollie and Raph remained the most spooked. Since Declan left, they spent most of their time in separate rooms, and in the common areas they huddled together as if afraid that someone might attack them, a thought that Stefan initially dismissed as ludicrous before remembering that the most recent punch had been thrown by him. His thumb still aches a little. Will and Adam have paired off again. Will's been volubly irritated by Aaron's dismissal of his concerns and Stefan's equivocation, and where Will goes, Adam goes, along with one of the TV-side sofas, dragged a few meters away and set up with its own small pile of beanbag chairs and a makeshift table. So Stefan and Aaron are down to a twosome once more, sitting together at lunch in the common room and spending most of the evenings in Stefan's bedroom. Aaron generally wants to return to his own room to sleep, but not always. Stefan's visited Aaron's room just once. Aaron suggested he might not want to sit down anywhere unless he's access to a blacklight and a mop. It's meant that Stefan's time with Pippa has been reduced greatly largely to quick check-ins, which Stefan would consider more of a shame if she didn't insist on gendering him female when they're alone together, which causes his dysphoria to flare up. He's been meaning to ask her to stop, but she's seemed delicate of late, and he hasn't had the heart. If she's still fighting with Christine, or ignoring her at least, then he might be all she's got. This afternoon, he's lounging on the sofa with Aaron, laughing at the awkward reality show on TV. Pippa called two of them a pair of giggling schoolgirls, and Stefan, after consideration, chose to take it as a compliment. When Monica, free of her responsibility for Declan, and thus, according to Pippa, now first in line for all the most irritating sponsor jobs, blanks the screen with her phone and tells Stefan and the boys to shut up and pay attention. A handful of other sponsors take up positions by the doors as if anticipating an escape attempt. The last one into the room, escorting Martin, sits him down at one of the tables. "What's this?" Aaron whispers. "No clue," Stefan replies, shrugging and pulling himself up from his slouch. Monica taps her phone again, and with the unmistakable ripple of a PowerPoint transition effect, the words, "What is feminism?" appear on the television. Off to the side, in his castle of beanbag chairs, Will groans. "Okay," Monica calls in a clear, room-filling voice that makes Stefan think of school assemblies. "Before I begin, I would like to address a few concerns about Declan. Yes, he was washed out. No, this does not mean he's dead, or turned into burger meat, or sold into sexual slavery. Yes, William, we heard your lurid little fantasies, and this is the only time we will dignify them with a response. All this means is, as far as you are concerned, is that he is no longer around, and he has gone to a place that is considerably less pleasant than the basement of Dorley Hall. If you do not wish to share his fate, if you wish to continue your rehabilitation in comfort, I advise you to avoid assaulting us or your peers." "What about Stefan? He hit him." Stefan... And Monica flashes her eyes momentarily to Stefan, as if to apologize for using the unambiguously gendered version of his name, "has been instructed that any further outbursts will be punished to the full extent of our abilities." That's it. He floors Declan and gets off without a bitching out. "If you will recall," Monica says, raising her voice again, "Declan attacks Stefan and Aaron first. We're viewing Stefan's actions as preemptive self-defense. Keep your hands to yourself and you will have no problems with him, I am sure." "She means Declan started it, idiot," Will says, in a surprising display of solidarity. Stefan tries to shoot him a smile, but he's too busy glaring at Raph. Is Declan alive? Stefan has no idea whether to believe Monica or not. She's not as senior as Maria, as far as he knows, but she's older than many of the other sponsors, and necessarily more in the loop than the mere graduates. She may well know things that Pippa and Abby don't. He doesn't know her well at all. Would she lie? Well, yes, she would. Isn't she lying right now to everyone here, pretending they have a route out of here that isn't abhorrent to them? Isn't Stefan? Shut up, unhelpful thoughts. And to get that, and with that over with, Monica says, tapping her phone again, the words "what is feminism" are now underlined. What is feminism? She gestures at the screen with each word. Aaron puts his hand up. "Oh," he says, full of enthusiasm. "I know this. Maria made me read all about it." Go on. "Feminism is the radical notion that women are purple." Very funny. Thank you. I'll tase you if you're that funny again, okay? Yes, ma'am. He turns and adds to Stefan in a stage whisper, "I like her." Monica ignores him and returns to addressing the room. "Now, we find that men like you," her eyes flicker to Stefan again. He shakes his head minutely, trying to indicate his indifference. "Come to us with, say, a somewhat inaccurate impression of feminism. Doesn't matter if you've been misinformed by your peers or online or some other source, the fact remains you are wrong about feminism and you are wrong about feminists. What you need to learn in order to leave this place as better people is not just why you were wrong, but how you came to be wrong. And in this course, and yes, this is a course, and from the next week on, we'll be assigning note sheets and homework. We'll begin with your misconceptions. move on to the mechanisms that misinformed you, and how to recognize common radicalization techniques, and finally cover the history and movements that make up the various feminisms and related social movements worldwide, up to the present day. Any questions? Without looking, Stefan reaches out and pulls Aaron's arm down from its raised position. No? Good. Monica taps her phone and the TV moves onto a photograph of a woman with bright red hair and glasses. Stefan recognizes her from any number of insulting memes with the caption, "You have been lied to." Aaron, citing feminism fatigue, retires to his room, presumably to wank away any lasting impression of Monica's extensive first session might otherwise make on him. So Stefan finds himself alone in the early evening for the first time since Declan washed out. Not a situation he enjoys. Aaron's surprisingly sweet when he's not performing for an audience, and without him, Stefan's responsibilities weigh heavy. He started imagining the boys, Aaron especially, but Will and Adam and even the others occasionally, in three states: as the women Dorley wants to make of them, as free men after some hypothetical and almost definitely impossible escape, and as black and bruised corpses. He feels an undue influence over them, as they're poised perpetually at the cusp of each of their futures, able to grasp their lives and twist them one way or the other at a whim. He tells himself, as severely as he can, that his perception of power is an illusion, that the outcomes for these boys are practically predetermined, and at the best or worst his presence can achieve is to help or hinder their acclamation. He pinches himself on the inner thigh. Pain helps, and the marks there are easiest to hide, even from Aaron. Stefan puts on some music. He's discovered that movies are a terrible distraction, but with music, with the headphones up as high as they go, probably terrible for his hearing. But if he survives to be an old woman, at least she'll be alive to appreciate the tinnitus. Chases away all thought. Helps him to concentrate on one thing at a time, to dissect himself without interruption. Hours later, after letting the music wander through the tastes he shares with whoever put the Dorley playlist together, and those he doesn't, he stops the music, drops the headphones on the floor, stretches, feeling the acid in his limbs boil away, feeling clear, feeling renewed. Because it's all quite simple, in the end. It's one thing to know you have no choice, but to help the people you're trapped with adjust to their own mutilation. But it's another to accept it, and Stefan, who has spent years as a closeted and barely out to himself trans woman, knows there is grace and strength in survival should you wish to claim it. There is only one real choice, offered to him as it is to them all. Live with it or die because of it. He's going to help everyone choose properly. He yawns, cracks his jaw, and sits up, collecting himself. His phone screen is a forest of notifications. Christine and Pippa have both tried to get in touch. Pippa just checking in, Christine asking if she can visit. He shoots off quick replies to both, suggesting that Christine can come see him anytime as long as he's alone, and as long as she promises to try talking to Pippa again, because she really is lonely and doesn't have as much time for her as he wishes. Christine's response is laden with less sarcasm than usual. She acquiesces and warns him to expect her and Paige in a few minutes. Stefan's heart skips up as he contemplates how little time he has to get ready, but he can't bring himself to turn her down. There's no escaping the fact he's grown accustomed to having Aaron around in the evenings, and without him the place feels comically large. How much his horizons have shrunk that such a small room could be so vast. Quickly, he checks himself over and immediately abandons the idea of brushing his hair. It's not yet long enough to put into even the world's smallest ponytail, so it'll have to hang loose and unstyled. The rest of him looks about as presentable as he gets lately. He's enjoying the clearer and softer skin, so he takes the rest of the time to quickly buzz his jaw with the electric razor. Every little helps. Christine lets herself in, obviously, but has the good grace to knock a couple times first so he can yell out that he's presentable. He almost doesn't recognize her. She always shows up in his memory in the clothes that she wore for their longest talk, back when he came out to her. Nightgown, leggings, flannel. Tonight she's wearing a tennis skirt with black and white repeating design around the hem, a black long-sleeve top, cut quite low and exposing collarbone and cleavage, and a pair of ankle boots. Her face is made up, and her hair, a little longer than the way he remembers it, is artfully arranged. "Wow," he says almost involuntarily. "You look great." Christine grimaces under the praise. Thanks, but this isn't my idea. Another girl follows Christine through the door, embracing her as she comes in, saying, Don't act like you don't love it. She's tall, and her dark blonde hair is brushed carelessly out of her face in a way that would, on Stefan, look like he'd been caught in an updraft. She's wearing a loose jacket, a simple white top, denim skirt, and tennis shoes, and her beauty absolutely short-circuits him. How was someone like her ever like him? Jesus Christ, he says. Christine snorts. No, Jesus was a boy. The other girl, Paige, presumably grins, resting her canines on her lip, and kicks the door shut. Hi, Steph. I'm Paige. I'm with her. Hi, he says, still reeling. It takes them a minute or so to get organized, given the limited seating in Stefan's room. With Aaron or Pippa, he'd share the bed, but despite talking to Christine at least once a week since the day he arrived, he doesn't feel close enough to her for that to be appropriate. He resolves the debate by bouncing out of the bed and claiming the computer chair, positioning so that the wheel's locked so he can put his feet up on the bedside table without spinning across the floor. And he makes get-on-with-it gestures at Christine and Paige until they reluctantly take the bed. I feel bad about this, Christine says, leaning against the wall with her legs sticking out. We're kicking you off your own bed. It's fine, I promise. But Christine, Paige says, it was her decision. She pokes Christine in the shoulder and takes up the position next to her, sitting close enough to take one of Christine's hands and entwine their fingers. Respect it. Fine, Christine says, rolling her eyes and smiling. See what I have to put up with? You poor thing, he says. Paige turns her amber eyes on him, interested and kind, and he finds himself shrinking away from her. What's up? She says, instantly concerned. Why didn't he wear a hoodie? At least then he could hide more of himself. It's, nothing. She continues to look at him. It's fine. It's weird. Being seen by more of you. When it was just Christine, when I first got here, that was one thing, but then it was all the boys. And Pippa and Maria and all the sponsors, then Abby, then Beatrice, now you. I feel foolish and stupid. Claiming womanhood in front of you all when I look and sound like this and you look and sound like you. And I worry, now that you know me like this, you won't be able to see me as a woman later. Is that what your pronoun thing is about? Paige asks. Maybe, a bit. Steph, Christine says, I don't want to be mean, but you're being silly. Look at who you're talking to. I am, that's the problem. So remember where we came from. Do you think we, of all people, will ever have trouble thinking of someone as a woman just because of how she started out? He wants to protest, to cut her off, to tell her she doesn't know how it feels, but maybe she does? At some point, Christine will have had to realign her perception of not just several of her friends' genders, her girlfriend included, but her own too. She'll have had to reckon with the world in a whole new way and feel her way to a new understanding of herself. He thinks of his coining for Pippa and Christine and all the Dorley girls, coercively reassigned female, a term that, mouthful though it is, still doesn't adequately encompass even the little he knows about process of going from someone like Aaron to someone like Paige. They've been there, possibly in this very bedroom. Now they're women out in the world. In broad strokes, there can be very little about him that they haven't seen in each other before. No, he admits, probably not. Does that mean we can call you a girl? Paige asks. I know I pronouned you earlier, habit, sorry, but I really won't do that if you don't want me to. I mean, it felt weird when Pippa was doing it, but I think that might have been kind of silly, like running on autopilot, you know? He exhales, counts a heartbeat, breathes again, drums into himself with a new breath the idea that women in front of him, casually beautiful though they are, have more in common with him than almost anyone else he's ever met. They're not interested in judging him. He groans. Hate me, Christine has said when he was still in the cell, before she even knew about him. He looks at her again and recognizes her the unsteady gaze, the same concern she had a month ago when she first revealed herself to him, her insistence that he ought to find her repulsive because of her past, because of who she is. A notion as ridiculous now as it was then. Either they're both judging each other or neither of them are. I'm an idiot, he says. Oh? He blows out his cheeks. Long story. The short version is, like I said, that I'm an idiot. You don't need details. Call me whatever's most comfortable for you. Then she, her, Christine says, and when he nods, she smiles broadly at him. The relief is similar to when he resolved Aaron's concerns about washing out, except this time the panicking idiot with the incorrect assumptions is him, and it has been him for a whole month. It's a delight to let them go. Thanks for coming down to see me, he says, finding some warmth for his voice. Really, I appreciate it. You're okay, Paige says. About this? Yeah, I think I actually am. It still takes another few minutes of slightly stilted conversation for them to hug, though. Christine jumps in first, kicking off her boots so they're nearly the same height, and she whispers to him as they embrace. Welcome to Dorley, Steph, and I don't mean it in the way B means it, loaded with obligation and shit. I just mean you're our sister now. The capital letter seems to slip in via a slight emphasis. That means we're your family and you're ours. We'll help you with anything you need, no matter how small. He's only just managed to thank her when Paige joins them. She's unable to mitigate her height, instead angling herself so she doesn't shove Stefan's face into her chest. Nice to finally meet you, to him as she says to him as they part. God, Christine says, putting her feet up on Paige, who pouts then rearranges them for greater comfort. It's weird being back in these rooms. I did not have a good time in here. She didn't, Paige says to Stefan. She said the rudest things to poor Indira. It's still strange thinking of you two down here with everything still to come. Then thinking about how it's all still to come for them too. He waves his hand at a door. How are you feeling about that? Christine says. Stefan shrugs. I hate it. I really hate it. But short of an upstairs coup that takes Beatrice out of action, no sign of that, I take it. The two heads shake in unison. Damn. Yeah. I know what's going to happen. And I know what's going to happen. So, do I help them deal with it or not? Morally, I don't think I have a choice. And it's what Aunt B wants from you. She doesn't have to do what Aunt B says, Christine says. You don't, looking back at Stefan. Everyone knows about you now. I think if she tried to wash out an actual trans girl, she would get deposed. And besides, she likes you. I think she doesn't know exactly what to do with you, and when she came down to see you that night, she was still kind of flailing, but she really likes you. Really, he says. In addition to your general novelty, you know who you are, Steph, and what you want. You're in a position to help the people in your intake. That's a huge leg up. That's like a good 30% of what she tries to drum into us once we get into second year. And we're mostly finally over the whole, my precious balls thing. She covers her groin with a protective hand. Actually, that's something I want to know. How do I help them with that? I can't see Aaron reacting well to the orchie. He won't. None of us wanted at the time. Except for Vicky. Best thing you can do, Christine says, is reassure him, all of them, that there's still a future. You don't need nuts to have a nice life. Put that on a mug, Paige says. They can even still all have kids. As for the immediate aftermath, Christine adds, frowning, everyone's different. Some people shut down, others become violent. What did you do, Stefan says, if it's okay to ask. It's fine. I shut down for a while. Paige and Vicky helped me through it. In a way, it was the start of me. A thing you need to understand about boys, Steph, about cis boys, nominally cis boys, Paige interjects, is that losing their testicles is a violation so profound it can prompt some serious soul searching. It's a shock to the system like no other. For me, it made it easier to discard the person that I used to be. I'd already done that, Paige says. Like Christine, she's wearing a slight frown, expressing the tiniest pinch between her eyebrows. Didn't mean I wanted the orchie, but I was prepared for it when it came. When she worked out what was going to be done to us, Christine says, long before the big snip, she went very quiet, and she stayed that way for a while. And yes, she was quiet before, unless we were alone together, me, her, and Vic. But she sort of retreated into her own brain. When she came back out, it was like she cleared the deck, got herself ready for anything. Unexpectedly, Paige plants a quick kiss on Christine's temple, pulling away before a giggling Christine can respond and holding her at bay as she says to Stefan, I worked it all out once we started developing our new secondary sex characteristics. The logical next steps, the likelihood of escape, weighed next to how much I'd liked my life up to that point. Not that much, to be honest. It made sense to acquiesce. Quite a relief, actually. To stop lashing out because people didn't understand me. Discard my armor, forge the new tools I needed to live a new life that I was being encouraged to accept. Strength in survival, Stefan says, nodding. Precisely, Paige says. And besides, I'd finally found someone who understood me. I'd do anything to stay by her side. She lets go of Christine, who overbalances for a second, and then eventually kisses Paige on the lips before returning to an ordinary sitting position. It took coming down here for me to feel seen for the first time. Christine loops an arm around her waist, and Paige continues. I never used to think of other people as properly real. Perhaps because none of them ever treated me like I was real. Christine did, from our first week together. Stefan's eyes flicked at Christine. I'm glad you have each other then, he says, squashing his jealousy over their beauty as well as their connection as firmly as he can. Me too, Christine says. They talk a while longer, mostly covering the practical side of transition. Stefan's never taken the opportunity to talk face to face about what he can expect from transition with other trans women before. Or whatever, close enough. And he can't conceal his fascination when they both reveal they've had bottom surgery. Of course it feels like part of me, Christine says as he leans in, rapt. Because it is. There's nothing there I didn't already have. It's just rearranged. When it was first healing up, when I was first getting used to it, I remember finding a darker patch of skin on me. And I just remember this sudden swelling of joy, of completeness, because I remembered exactly where that patch of skin used to be. And I was like, oh yeah, it's there now. A comforting bit of continuity. And yes, for a while I got these sensations like itching or whatever, and it seemed like they were coming from something I didn't have anymore, but it didn't take that long to stop. Those feelings relocate quite quickly. Now it just feels like a part of me, like I've had it all along. It's warm and fuzzy, Paige says, and grins her toothy grin. Later, Christine is scrolling through the unlocked movies and TV shows on the network, looking for something they can watch together that's not on the approved list for the basement's girls to be, and Paige is on her phone, asking one of the duty girls to send her some popcorn down to the dumbwaiter. Aaron starts banging on Stefan's door. He knows it's Aaron without asking. It's not that he has a special knock, but he's the only one that doesn't stop knocking until Stefan consents to open the door. He doesn't open up this time, though. He just waves the girls into silence and says through the door, Yes? Aaron says muffled. Can I come in? It's late, Aaron, Stefan says. Can we talk about whatever it is in the morning? Behind him, Paige whispers, Did you forget to put the other rooms in lockdown? Christine says, I didn't forget, it just seemed like overkill. Oh, right. It's late code for I'm finally masturbating. Good for you, Steph. Stefan's glad he's facing away from Christine and Paige so they can't see him blush. No, Stefan says, louder than he intends. Christine laughs. Paige shushes her. Look, I wanted to talk to you about that, actually. What a surprise. No, I mean, I'm really serious. Can you out with it, Aaron? Can you get it up? Dick-wise, I mean. I haven't really tried. Okay, could you maybe try for me? For you! Yes, because the thing is, I can't. For a good few days now, it's not happening. It doesn't matter what or who I try to think about. It doesn't matter if I stroke it or rub it or fucking sing to it. It doesn't work anymore. I try all my best moves. I try my worst ones too, and the snake won't come out of the fucking basket. In this metaphor, you're a basket. What? Maybe? Does it matter? I'm just trying to fully understand the picture you're painting, Aaron. Fine, I get it. You're tired. You're being a bitch. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Sleep well, Steph. You too. It's possible to hear Aaron's door opening again, and when it closes again, Stefan leans gratefully against the wall. On the bed, Christine is only barely holding back a serious attack of the giggles. Do you see what I have to put up with? He says. 2019, November 22nd, Friday. It's been a week since Aaron, in formally informed Stefan of his inability to maintain an erection, a momentous enough event that Aaron started dividing time into BF and AF, before floppy and after floppy, but nothing much else has changed. Aaron's dwelling over much on his erectile difficulties. I told Maria and she laughed and said it was one of those things, it was just the surroundings getting to me. And yeah, okay, that's definitely true, but I feel like my balls are like one of those baseball pitching machines and it's broken and it just keeps on racking up and it's starting to shake with how overloaded it is one of these days, and it's going to explode and shower a small American town in baseballs. So to distract them, they've been watching progressively sappier movies. They've seen The Princess Switch 3 times now and have started to develop some esoteric theories about the genetics of it. Wills continued to agitate and he started talking to Raph and Ollie, which Stefan would be more concerned about if he hadn't also relented and started to talk to him and Aaron again too. It'd be nice to imagine them all getting along, or at least never attacking each other again, and Adam's been happy to run interference on Will's worst days. From Saturday to Wednesday, almost everyone has had a cold, which dampened Will's revolutionary fervour somewhat and reduced the common room to a chorus of dull sniffles and slips as they drank hot lemon and watched TV from under the blankets that Maria eventually agreed to let them drag from their bedrooms. Aaron's still spending most evenings in Stefan's room until very late, but tonight he's decided, in the way he sometimes does, to get an early night. Stefan's under no illusions about what he does or tries to do alone in his room and prefers not to think about it if he can avoid it. He settles down instead for an evening of internet, catching up on what's been happening on the outside world since he started living mostly underneath it, and he's just started to wonder whether or not he should ask Pippa, Paige, or Christine or Abby down. Maybe he can meet the famous Indira when Aaron's repetitive knocking starts shaking his door. Aaron's got Stefan's hoodie, the one he borrowed and never returned, wrapped tight around his body, twisting his hands around each other again and again. Stefan stands aside and the boy immediately enters and starts talking as soon as the door closes, pacing back and forth on the carpet. So, please stop me if this is too much information, but I've just been made generally aware that, I just say stuff, and sometimes the stuff is really a lot for people to take in, and Maria has told me especially that she experiences conversations with the same way that someone standing in a river experiences water. But anyway, the thing is that I was undressing, getting ready for bed, and you know what? I was thinking about having another cheeky wank, see if I could really blow the doors off, but before I even try, I took my shirt off, and so the thing is, I don't care what you said before, because my chest has definitely been feeling a little puffy lately, and long story short, I touched my nipple and I came in my pants. He stops pacing and faces Stefan, flushed and wide-eyed. Thoughts? End of chapter 16.